So starting off this rose, I know roses can be very complicated because they have a very dense structure and formation of petals. So an easy way to start a rose is by starting marking your center and starting with the innermost oval that you can make out. So find the center of your rose and then find the center of your sheet. Mark it and then start with the innermost oval that you can see and follow the path by creating whichever round and circle you see which is connected to it. Just simply start using a ballpark measurements, just start drawing it. Now for this piece, I will be using mainly these three colors. The first one is vermilion, the second is crimson, and the third one is orange. Now, beginning my process for the rose, so we'll be starting off with drawing our highlights first. So, in order to do this, I am first covering my entire rose with a very light coat of water. Use a mop brush or the biggest brush that you have. Try following the edges as close to possible. But if you don't, it's fine because right now we are just highlighting the major parts of the rose, and this process is going to happen as a whole. So here I'm using my orange hue, the orange color, and adding it on the areas where I need to show highlights. The reason we added water was because we wanted to have a very smooth dilution of the color on your paper, and the water ensures it happens smoothly. Wherever you feel you need highlights, you can add the orange. Keep a close look at your reference image before doing this. Anytime you feel your water has dried up, you can add more water, but make sure that the orange that you're applying, it has a very smooth dilution across wherever you're applying. Let your highlight dry out before we move on to making one petal at a time. So now I'll be starting off with the bottommost petal, and I'll be starting off with a light coat of water as usual. You have to overlap on the highlights, just leave out certain areas and along the edges. And in the center, you can see I've left out some white areas because that is the place where the light is falling directly and it is mostly in white color. Now check your reference image and we need to add some shadow areas to this petal. And for this, I'll be mixing some crimson with a little bit of purple to create this shade. And I'll be adding this along the inner part of the petal and on the outer edges. Image, this petal is slightly dark towards the outer edges over the right side and towards the inside. And we have a big triangle, like we have a big dark crimson triangle happening on the right side, which we'll be creating through different layers, but we'll be creating first coat right now. Now I'm adding water and I'm blending it out throughout because it's summer here and we have the fan running, so your piece dries out really soon. So if you're in India, if you're using watercolors in India, this is going to be a problem. So make sure you are continuously wetting your paper and making sure that every color that you're applying, it's smooth. But don't go overboard with water, otherwise your paper will start to wilt and it will start to the paper will start to come off. Now, once your base coat is done, we can start with the second coat or the detailing coat on the roses. You'll see that my center part and the middle part of the rose is still not done, and that is something I will leave for the end. So right now I'll finish off the all the petals that we have worked on by doing the second and the detailing layers on it. So if you've been following me, I follow three basic steps on while doing my florals. So the first one is doing the base coat, which we have done in the first two lessons. The second is the one which I'm working on right now, which is about highlights and the details and fleshing out the shadows and the important areas of your petal. Now, moving on to the final touches, our rose is fairly done. What we need to do right now is flesh out some more textures, especially in the inner section. And those textures are mostly the veins that we need to flesh out. Each botanical has its own different sort of a texture. Roses, for that matter, they are very, very veiny. So I do hope you enjoyed the session.